News, coming back to you again here at the world famous Parkway Diner on this Monday, April 21st, the year Lord 2025, the day after Easter, which was quite an Easter, shall we say. Now, first, our little calls to action. Remember to go to our website, yankeeteen.news, visit, like, subscribe. Tell Tong Time. Tong, what are you really defending? That's our question for you today. And then on our Tina Peters watch, to Governor Polis, the longer you take, the worse it will be for you. You now have had to have the Department of Justice come back to you a second time to express interest in the case because you dismissed the first inquiry. What kind of a lowlife are you? That's what I'd like to know, okay? There are issues to be hashed out, and just trying to push people away on such an important matter accomplishes nothing except to isolate you and make people get angry at you. So you might want to think a little more carefully about these so-called judicial strategies. Just saying. All right. Meantime, in the news, yes, we first, of course, have to talk about the passing of the late Pope Francis. Now, as I was listening to the various eulogies about his life, there were certain things that obviously stood out. He was thought of as being the Pope for the poor. He himself came from a poor background in Argentina and, had lots of different jobs. He was a bouncer, eventually ended up as a priest, and he managed to rise to the ranks until he became a pope. And one of the things he was noted for was not forgetting where he came from. So for that, he gets credit. And his constant intoning about the importance of caring for the poor is well noted, right? And on top of that, I would say that he walked the walk in the sense that he lived in a little guest house rather than the main Pope room or residence. And so these are all the good things. The things that concern us is the degree to which he may have politicized the church. What's going to happen to the Latin Mass? And I think there's some fair questions to be asked with respect to the church's relationship with Christians in communist China. Because especially now, what has been happening is that Christianity has been growing in China. It has gotten to a point now where the communist Chinese can't ignore it anymore, and they're now kicking missionaries out. Presumably that means they're also kicking out Roman Catholics. That's something that the Vatican should not stand for in principle. But we know that the Roman Catholic Church have been cutting deals with the communist Chinese. In the back, you have these so-called government-approved bishops. It's really not, it looks bad, shall we just say. All right, so how, going forward, whoever the next pope is, how are you going to react to that? So the other point is that he has brought more, shall we say, liberal cardinals into the conclave, and it's going to be an issue. Will he have pulled together enough where the direction of the church going forward is going to be to select more so-called liberal popes who try to, quote, modernize the church? Or will there be a pushback against it? We'll have to see. So we'll keep reporting on that. Meantime, I just, you probably saw it. I mean, let me deal with the timeline, okay? I'm going to go backwards. This should make it clearer. So it's Saturday, 1 a.m. in Washington, D.C., and it's at that moment that the Supreme Court of the United States issues a paragraph-long statement, not a ruling. It wasn't signed. There was no analysis. But this one paragraph statement basically said that Trump cannot use the Enemy and Aliens Act of 1798 against illegal aliens, which I think a lot of us consider absurd. It's the church, it's the court overreaching, as some would argue, and I would argue, but there it was. Now, that's Saturday, 1 a.m. The previous Friday evening, you had the ACLU submitting an emergency application to SCOTUS to get Trump to stop deporting illegals, all right? Now, from that, let's go back to Wednesday, when two things happened with Judge Boasberg, where he said, basically, I don't have the power to effect the kind of change you want to supplicants. And the D.C. Circuit Court basically telling Judge Boasberg, you can't do this anymore. We're going to start. It's a temporary stay, though. See, this is always with the temporary stays. So let me see if I can find the language that makes this clear here. Bear with me. It's right here. It's right here. I know it's right here. Okay, here it is. So it says, order the courts on motion, the district's contempt-related order entered on April 16th, 2025, be administratively stayed pending further order of the court. The purpose of this administrative stay is to give the court sufficient time or opportunity to consider the emergency motion for a stay pending or writ of mandamus. Okay, great. Well, this has clearly set a series of things in motion. And here's the problem. First of all, it's obvious, it should be obvious, that what the court did is just flat out weird. It's another head scratcher from the Supreme Court. There's been a number of these head scratchers. So ladies and gentlemen, without getting into a lot of detail, although I will mention the pretzel logic ruling concerning Obamacare issued by our Chief Justice many years ago, that what you are seeing on display here, especially as a result of the ruling a couple days ago, is what we have to call the deep state Supreme Court. That's what it is. And part of what drives this observation is the inconsistency of their rulings. Sometimes they rule in a way that makes sense, then they rule in ways that border on a constitutional crisis. Back and forth. So not only is it a deep state court, it is a psychotic Supreme Court. They just can't seem to figure out what reality is when it comes to the Constitution. So there's clearly a problem, and I don't know what the answer is right now, okay? You can't go on like this. That's all I know. All right, I want to get to the next thing. Bear with me. There's a gentleman named Tyler Durden. I'm trying to remember the name of the, it's a popular website, but so Tyler Durden did this analysis about the tariffs, and it was an excellent analysis. So one of the things, for example, was he looked at what we'll call the components of trade. So rather than just look at the tariffs and look at the amounts of money that are involved between different countries and the size of the tariffs, he started to ask questions, well, what about the relative profitability of these different products? What about the services component in trade? You know, cloud computing is something where American companies are dominating. So if you're looking at it from a trade point of view, we're getting all the benefit from it, and everybody else is paying a price for it. So shouldn't we be talking about the service component? But we haven't been hearing that. And he made the very general statement that you can see there's not a lot of transparency. We know these meetings are going on, they're being discussed. You know, President Trump is going to back off a little bit, and people are trying to interpret the significance of this backing off in various ways. But the key point is that we're expecting maybe some deals to come forth. However, are these going to be the kinds of deals that Trump was predicting? Or are these things we're going to have to put a different spin on them and try to apply some face-saving statements to these deals? We don't know, but we are going to stay tuned. Let's see, so what were some other things? The skepticism about the outcomes. Then another point in trying to evaluate trade is that there are products American companies make overseas that never come to the American market. So it might be made in Malaysia to be shipped to India, or vice versa. So how do you account for that when you're trying to discuss tariffs? So once again, Mr. Durden asked a lot of really good questions about this. So that's that. Meantime, high on our list, Harvard is in the news, but in a bad way. And just to set the tone, let me make the point. Does anybody have a guess as to what the endowment is for Harvard University? If you said $53.2 billion, you'd win the prize. So let that sink in. $53.2 $3.2 billion. That's the endowment, okay? That's their piggy bank, so to speak. So with that in mind, now what happens? President Trump says, all that foreign money you guys are taking, which the way for Harvard is $3.2 billion, I want to see the books. Now, this could be very embarrassing because, ladies and gentlemen, I need to share with you a little information. There was a study, it was done in England, maybe 10 years ago, and what they were trying to do was put together a complete picture of money laundering around the world, and especially as it was coming into the UK. So, should we be surprised? Banks, obviously involved a lot in money laundering. Insurance companies, okay? Other large financial institutions. But are you ready for the surprise? A large number of universities in England were also involved in money laundering. Now, the look and feel of their money laundering might be a little bit different because what they're doing is they're taking money from families who want their children to come to school. And yes, so these people are making healthy donations without asking, where did that money really come from? And the short answer is a lot of drug money is finding its way into university banks. Now, just to confuse the matter a little bit more, I'll throw in another one. Are we going to find out that some of that NGO money from the USAID by circuitous means found its way into university bank accounts? We need to know. Okay, there are all kinds of issues here. So President Trump is right to ask Harvard and the others, you got to open up your books as far as international money is concerned. Now, to show that these people are kind of losing it, there is a woman, I don't even know her name. She handles the biomedical research activities in Harvard, and she has threatened that, gee, if we don't get our money, we're going to have to kill our animals. Now, obviously, this is a ploy to make people get all upset, and it's ridiculous. The care and feeding these animals is not that expensive, okay? So you're complaining because the federal government wants to take away your biomedical research funding, but, oh, that's right, let me remind you, the $53 billion endowment to cover ground, cover territory, okay? Anyway, so meantime, here's the other thing. You got this huge endowment, and because of the crazy way in which liberal donors are acting, they're pouring money into Harvard. And they're really even making that endowment even bigger, just like that. It's crazy. Meantime, I should add that while Trump is demanding to look at the books for Harvard, other universities may find themselves hit with the same demands, All right, now I just was talking about SCOTUS and Boasberg. So I just want to remind you that Boasberg was put into a tough spot here, all right? He's basically had to say, I don't have the ability to do anything because of the kinds of pressure that are being put on me. Let me find the quote for you. Put this thing to bed. He said, I am sympathetic to your conundrum, but I don't think I have the power to do anything about it, Boasberg said during an emergency hearing in the district court in D.C. Okay, that's the same district court that told Boasberg, this contempt crap you're putting together, stop, okay? Everybody's trying to move too quickly. I think we're used to a deliberative process that's associated with the law. It ain't happening, okay, because they're so bent out of shape over what Trump is doing. So they're doing anything they can to stop him. Ridiculous. Meantime, all right, so it was a little unexpected, right? I have to share the sense of despair and disappointment that other people feel about what's happening with Ukraine and Russia. And let's throw in the EU too. It's, I don't know what to think. And I think Trump shares that disappointment when he threatened to say he's just going to walk away from this fractious interaction that's going on between Ukraine and Russia because he can see the progress is not really being made. Can't blame him. But so where's this going to leave everybody? And unfortunately, these things, whether you like it or not, really favor Russia and the EU. And here's the other part. Some of these commentators keep talking about how the EU just can't keep up with what Russia is doing, especially in the long term. I have issues with this. First of all, when you add up the populations and the GDPs of all the European nations, they are what? About 50% as big as Russia's GDP, and certainly the population for Russia is smaller. So how can a country with a weaker economy and a smaller population be expected to prevail over a larger population that has more money and resources? No explanation, all right? But this is the way people are talking, and it does not make any sense to me. All right, and let me just add, there was this talk, I can't believe it. There is talk, these people in the EU may be out of their minds. There's a good chance. France and Britain are talking about getting troops together, setting a base up in Romania, and deploying them to, wait for it, Odessa. Okay, well now you're talking, all right, so technically you're not fighting the Russians, but you put yourself in a place, it's kind of like a chess move that's going to block what the Russians may want to do. But at some point, you know, you may find yourself in direct conflict with the Russians. What are you going to do when you have a missile strike in Odessa, which has already happened, I believe? So wow, what are you guys thinking? Meantime, I just want to mention that the Democrats have been calling here we have more of these hands-off rallies. And so the Democrats are saying, oh, we're good. We're organizing a lot of people. It's going to be great. We're going to have 11 million protesters out there. Well, by current estimates, they're lucky that they might have even gotten 10,000. Okay? So 10,000 is enough still to make some news, make some noise, make it seem like the other people are hating Trump, but it's not what you would expect. Okay? I guess maybe Soros is running out of money. Well, let's see what happens on May 1st. And we want to celebrate communism, and they'll have more hands-off rallies. We'll see how that goes. Now, the point is well taken. I was thrilled, others were thrilled when the executive order was written saying that education cannot use DEI anymore. Beautiful. Well, some time has passed, and we have learned that despite the early successes, it's something like only 26 universities which have terminated their programs, and about, says here, almost 400 which still have them. Okay, so it's going to take more than just an executive order to get them to stop doing this. It's going to take more pressure on more levels to get rid of this DEI crap. But why they still hold on to it is something that's still, I'll just say it's a mystery to me. That's all I'm saying. And then what's the other thing here, just quickly, I want to get through this. Stay with me. Tina, oh wait, the China Robot Marathon. Did anybody see it? We have the YouTube link right here. So it was actually a half marathon. And what the video showed was 2 tracks or lanes where people were running. One had people, the other had robots and people. And so you could see that these robots were competing in some sense. So you could say, well, it's the first time they've done it. So next year, maybe the robots will be a little faster. And after that, maybe even a little more speedy. And then maybe the batteries will last a little bit longer. So it's a nice little publicity stunt. So good for them. Now, meantime, Tina Peters, as I said in the beginning to Governor Polis, if you're listening, what you're doing is not wise. You have a woman who apparently has health problems, who is old, and will be much older by the time she's supposed to be able to get out. You, buddy, need to show some compassion, okay? You know, you represent a way of thinking that's supposed to be compassionate and concerned about people's welfare. Well, why don't you cut her some slack and let her be in her home while you get this all sorted out? Okay, that's my advice to you. The fact that you guys have decided to stick it to the Department of Justice by rejecting their first inquiry. So now the Department of Justice will come back with a stronger inquiry. And there's something you need to think about, okay? Like I said, the longer this takes, Governor Polis, the worse it's going to be for you, all right? Because more people will get involved. You're going to draw more attention to this right now. Not that many people are paying attention. And What? Is it your judgment that you have to wait for the temperature to get to a certain point and then you say okay? Not smart thinking. Anyway, we've also put up an addendum. So check out the addendum. Sarah Palin's case against the New York Times. Muslims offended by Easter. The liberal media is up to its old tricks. COVID's long journey to an honest narrative. And how universities became addicted to federal R&D money. That actually has a long history. That goes back to World War II.
And stay tuned for our report on dark woke, the new dark woke.
Oh, the new dark woke. So there's dark woke.
Well,
yeah.
It's woke, but it's new. And so
Understood.
It's called dark woke.
Yeah, there's something else though.
Jasmine Crockett, eyelashes.
Well, yeah.
No message.
Well, we are going to get into this, okay, and then we're going to be juxtaposing it with some other weird movements.
Yeah,
Don't forget the
week,
Zizians.
So stay tuned this week. Court,
yeah, got a lot of follow-up.
Your host will be posting things on dark woke this week.
Sure, and other things. All right, well, thank you very much. All right.